Hello and welcome to the Federal. We are discussing a very important subject about student suicide, a spate of suicides, about 5 suicides in the past 2 weeks. Probably the very alarming situation that we are seeing right now. Although we don't want to create an alarm out of this, but the idea is to figure out how to look at these numbers, how to look at these people, these precious lives that are being lost. I'm joined by Dr. Safia from Bangalore. Dr. Safia is a very well experienced psychiatrist as well as a psychological counselor. Thanks a lot, Doctor, for joining us. I'll begin by asking, I mean, you have been hearing reports from Tamil Nadu about these students' death. It has been a cause for worry. Even the chief minister of the state has appealed to the students to not take the extreme step. But what are we doing? Are we doing something wrong? Are we not being able to reach out to these students who have made this decision to take their own precious lives? How are you looking at these developments?
Suicides were there always, right? Suicides is one of the tip of the iceberg. Um, there's a lot of factors which leads to suicide. Like if you look at these kids, it's not that sudden decision they took. There's a lot of build up which happens for suicide to happen. So it could be a medical problem, like one of the commonest cause for suicide medically is a depressive disorder, a psychotic disorder, substance use disorders, or any kind of anxiety disorder. So that is one aspect of the problem, which is there is an illness and that complication, untreated medical illness leading to suicide, which is one spectrum of the problem. Now, other determinants of a suicides are social in nature, like the ecosystem which we live in. Now, if you look at these cases, the 5 kids who lost their life mostly are due to the social factors, wherein they were not, the life skills were not good enough, or the belief system were too strong to believe that death is the only solution. So the formation of belief system happens in the by the community we live in. Somewhere the message which the children got was that you are only worthy to live if you are successful in your exams or if you get into so and so college. So that makes it a much more deeper problem than just a reactionary thing. So if you're looking at a suicide prevention, we have to either go down upwards, that we start from the belief system to the community to the medical system upwards, or start from upward downwards, where we work on the day when the child has decided to commit suicide. So both approaches are required, because maybe if these 5 kids had an access to somebody to talk to who was trained enough to understand what is the situation and had the resources to connect them to, and then had kind of resolved the conflict, maybe we could have saved those lives. Other way to
One
look
interesting
around.
thing, Doc, sorry to cut you, but when you're saying these two approaches, one interesting thing that we noticed in these cases, like there has been one case where the factor was said to be about marks. There's been one case where it was alleged sexual harassment. There was another case where it was said that the student could not was an insufferable pain, menstrual pain, and so the reasons are so varied. Will the system of setting up counseling centers, or we as media have been advertising helpline numbers. Now, what we are sort of worried about is this good enough? This approach, trying to reach out to anybody who's probably being triggered by media reports or being triggered by whatever they're watching, or by, like you said, the social circumstances. Is this enough? What we're doing right now?
So there is no one approach which fits all. I think there has to be, this should be looked up as a public health problem. And we need to look at from a public health perspective as to at a larger scale. So we need to interfere at different levels. Now, instead of over reliance on counseling centers or psychiatrists, there should be reliance on the grassroots levels, wherein more and more awareness happens at school level, at community centers, at maybe where community is more approachable, like temples, mosques, and churches, and these kind of people where people are more accessing. So there could be centers where we decentralize this whole thing and then make a approach. So if at all there is a decentralization and then training is being done at those levels for people who are there, who are not technically probably into a psychological thing, but then they know how to handle it. So if that could happen, I think we can break down it to a very low level and it becomes a cost effective and a replicable model, so that we can keep doing that again and again, and it does not involve much of human resource. So whoever resources are available, like in a church, if somebody is there, one person is trained in this matter, so that that person is always available. So something like that. Then it can be at a community level and a public health level, so that we can bring in some change instead of us waiting for a helpline. Helpline, as I said, is one aspect of the solution, which also should be there, but then I don't think that is going to be the only one solution. So we need to have better preparation from a community level, which should be at a PHC level also, like a sub center or a public health center. Not many will be able to afford a counseling session or a psychiatrist. So if at all we are strengthening our public health structures, like our PHCs, like our urban health centers, where more and more people are understanding how to deal with this, I think we can bring in some impact, and then we can also bring in some kind of a change which can happen.
Doctor, two things, two very important aspects you mentioned. We cannot discount helpline. That is
yes, we cannot. We cannot.
Because
we cannot.
And the second thing, that is an important aspect you mentioned. The second thing you're saying is try and bring psychological counseling to grassroots level. But you also mentioned, which I completely agree, and that was going to be my next question, which is these don't come cheap. So even getting psychological counseling to the extent of PHC level, there is a huge cost factor involved, because the ratio of person to psychological counselor ratio seems to be very skewed. There's not many counselors available, and if they are available, they come at a huge cost, don't they?
So if you look at the National Mental Health Program, which has been active in India, and our government has done a very good job with respect to National Mental Health Program and District Mental Health Program, where there has been a good amount of importance given to mental health, where at district level, taluk level, sub-center level, PHC level, there are training going on for at the PHC level also to make the medicines available, some of the skills available, and decentralize that. So I think what we have to do is to join hand with them, so that the more and more we can make it much more easier, more NGOs to join with them and make this training resource capacity building better. So then the cost cutting can happen, so that we can bring in some kind of a change. So cost cutting is very important, because otherwise we cannot come up with a sustainable model, because again the counseling becomes more expensive for the people at the grassroots. So capacity building is something which we are thinking of also, that more and more lay people who are inclined to mental health, who want to be a part of mental health but are doing something else, if we could give some hours of their week to something, more and more capacity building should happen. And then those people who are trained can then refer them to PHCs and the secondary health centers or the helplines or the tertiary care centers. So a feedback loop or a referral system loop has to be created, so that we all join hands together and the load is not on one person alone. Then only this becomes more meaningful and more sustainable.
Right. And coming back to that point about the helpline that you mentioned, my colleagues, journalists on the ground, have found out that after these instances, especially the Kallakurchi episode where we saw a minor girl had ended her life, there has been a spate of calls being made to these centers, these helpline centers. The numbers, which were in hundreds, have now gone up to 1,000. That's what I'm being told. I don't have the specific numbers, but my colleagues have been telling me that this is what has happened. So, does this also help in the overall situation right now? Because it looks a bit alarming. 5 lives lost in 2 weeks. Probably for the first time we're seeing this kind of frequency.
Yeah, a space to open up, a space to kind of maybe kind of quantify the pain helps the person to talk about it more. Mostly, otherwise, mental health is something which is not quantified, and they just minimize the problem and they just keep quiet and just pray to God, or just you are too entitled to even think about all these things. So people are minimalizing this problem of somebody's pain. So I think a space like this, many people will come out and tell that how much big is this a problem. So we have to be more responsible when we talk about things. So helplines are definitely needed. Helplines are needed, but then, as you said, the load is so high. Then what are they going to do about it? If they're getting 1,000 calls, how are you going to manage it? And are we trying? What is the next step? Is something which is very important. No? How many people you will be able to counsel on the phone? So that's why I'm telling a helpline is meaningful, and there has to be a helpline, but there has to be more hands which works on the ground, which can make these helplines more viable, sustainable, and meaningful. It should not be that, okay, these helplines are getting too many calls only in this week or next week, and then again it calms down. That's not something which we want. We want this to be an operational model. We want people to talk more about mental health and prevent suicides as much as possible, because this is the most preventable cause of death. And unfortunately, this is second largest cause of death in India also, after road traffic accidents. So this is the most preventable cause of death. So I think if we are not doing anything at a public health level or at a grassroots level, and we are only restricting ourselves to some of the helplines, that is not going to solve a very big problem which is there in the community.
So do you see, you did mention that there are national health mission projects that are working on the ground, but what needs to be done to enhance this further? Because somewhere you get the doubt when you see cases like this, 5 students losing their lives. So in such a short span, somewhere you get this feeling that maybe it's not working.
One reason why it is not working is the problem is huge, and many of the problem is not addressed when there are red flags. Like if you do a case study on these 5 cases, there could have been red flags right from 6 months back or a year back. The child would have shown red flags like not sleeping well, being alone in the room, not studying, not showing any interest, getting irritated, wanting to be alone, withdrawn behaviors, not eating food properly, not brushing their teeth, not having bath, not being their usual self. There are so many red flags which we tend to miss. So if we retrospectively go at these 5 kids, and look back and interview their family members, definitely will be able to trace the red flags. It did not happen one day. It did not happen one fine morning that child decided. There would be red flags at least from if it trace back 6 months to 1 year, there could be signs of vulnerability, which is where the ground workers come into picture. So we are not looking at the end what to do. We probably can't do much. Now, on the day, if a person has already decided, first of all, they won't call you. I mean, they will not call a helpline when they've already made a decision to die. Who will do that? I mean, if somebody has done that, that means they still have that hope that somebody will help. So when does the person die is when they're absolutely hopeless. Absolutely hopeless, that I have nobody to help me, not even a helpline. So somebody to make a call to a helpline is a lot of effort for a person going through depression. That's something which we have to understand. So they will not call you. They will not call you and tell, see, I'm going to die today. No. That will happen in a percentage of people who are not yet hopeless. They still feel, they may be helpless, they may be worthless, they may feel worthless, they may feel helpless, but they are not yet hopeless. That's when they will make a call thinking that somebody is there sitting to help me. Otherwise, we will lose out on the whoever have already have hopelessness. They will not, that's when they die, right? When there is a dead end, then they don't see anything ahead of them, that there is no anchor for me or there's nothing which will help me. That's when somebody would want to die. So if at all we want to prevent that, then the work has to start retrospectively long back so that we create some hope at least. At least we work on them. See, there is helpline. See, there is this people who can help. Okay, now do you have a menstrual pain? Let us talk to the best gynecologist. Okay, let it cost. The cost is a big problem at ground level. You know, there are doctors, but then there's no money to pay them. So you have to make sure that they have these public sectors, which is there. So we have to create hope in different levels. So that is where is more of a prevention which will work. So that is why I'm saying that it's important that people at grassroots level at least learn to recognize the red flags.
All right.
Now, if the child has not slept from 1 month, that's a very big red flag. Oh my God, the child has not slept from 1 month. Why? Not come to school from 1 month, not had a bath from 1 month. These are all significant red flags which we need to identify and start working at the ground level, and also understand other factors like sociological factors which is contributing to it. Poverty, as one of the person has mentioned, pain, alcoholism in the family, nobody to talk to, ecological fact, we cannot minimize all of them. It is there in front of us, and we need to look and talk about these things as well. So you cannot tell somebody to be very, very hopeful when the situation at home is totally hopeless.
So
these are all the things.
So one is the red flags. Very clearly, you're saying that's a very important aspect. And second is, when these red flags have been identified, what do the parents do? What do the society around them do? You are right when you say that these trained workers reaching out to them, maybe that may not happen naturally. That may take a lot more time. But what do these parents, the immediate society around them, what should they do when they identify these red flags? They are not trained.
Yeah, they have to go to psychiatrists. They have to go to the counselors who are near to them. That's where the accessibility of the counselors and psychiatrists becomes a problem. That's why I'm coming with the plan of district mental health programs, where the district mental health is trying to do. Tamil Nadu, it is very good. Actually, compared to all the states, Tamil Nadu district mental health program is doing a better job, actually. So
ironically, Tamil Nadu numbers are also scary. Ironically,
that's where we have to understand what is happening, right? What else DMHP can do? What else NGOs can do, so that we can raise up the bar, and then have more, of course, helplines, more facilities, more trained people, more awareness, more empathy, families changing, our ecosystem changing, belief system changing. All these are the way ahead, but these are very, very idealistic situations, and but when we have to start somewhere.
Right, and there are two factors that seem to be very common, doctor. One is that the number of females seem to be more among the students who are deciding to take the extreme step. Second is, this is happening in either semi-urban or rural areas.
Very clearly, the reason, there's a gender disparity right from the time immemorial, and gender disparity exists. Patriarchy exists. When a child has a problem, probably the attention she gets is much lesser than a boy having a problem, right? Menstrual problem, okay, this year every month problem, what is the big deal? You are making a big issue out of it. You are seeking attention. You are just wanting to be lazy. So these are the comments many people get, and that is true even today. Even today, there is a gender disparity at different levels, and that is the reason females are more vulnerable for depression. Even in statistically, depressive disorder, anxiety disorder is more in female. At the same time, the disparity on the female is still existing. So the death of them, they are much more hopeless than a man. A boy getting probably issue stomach pain will be more addressed than a girl getting a menstrual problem. That is even true today. So that's why it's very clearly there. They will die more easily because they have no hope.
So does that mean that even the approach should be even more targeted?
Yes. Female self-esteem we should work on. They should love themselves. They should be asking for their right to health, for food, for safety, for menstrual safety, menstrual hygiene. They should be able to voice up their rights for themselves. I mean, that also has to come up. Otherwise, they'll only die. That
No,
is
these
true.
missions
That
that
is.
you're talking about, the ground level mission, district level uh, counseling, should they be even more female centric or female focused?
Um, Coming to females, the problems can be more specific to females when it comes to our societal factors, like females' career, like 12th grade is a very significant point because career decision happen then. At the same time, in many communities, marriage decision also happens then, right? A child is probably kind of squeezed between a career choice, a marriage choice, financial difficulty, what course should she choose? Many of them are not encouraged to take a professional course, thinking about the marriage and the finance involved. So a lot of factors which plays a role when it comes to female. It will be definitely good if it can be woman centric, definitely. Child centric also.
All right. So where exactly is this distance coming? Like suppose the female child or even a male child is having a problem, going and discussing this with immediate society, parents, brothers, sisters, friends. That seems like you're saying some of the red flags mean they sit inside a room for a month. I mean, where is this gap developing, and how is it that this is not being bridged?
I see we cannot blame anybody here, but parents should see all this. We cannot blame the parents. Definitely no, they don't become divine just because they are parents. They also will have their limitations. They also have to go and work and make them make sense. So they may not really look at all this because at this point parents are also struggling to have their own careers and stuff like that. But I think parents should observe these things, whether the child is sleeping well, eating well, they are in the room for more time. What are they doing? What are they doing in the phone? Whom they are talking to? Are they taking any substance? Substance use is very high nowadays. Everybody is taking cannabis. They think that's the best thing to do in life. And cigarettes and all those things. Pornography is very high in men. All those things, the parents will have to put one eye there, and parents will be immediately kind of blamed or they're responsible. So I think the parental training becomes necessary in adolescence.
So there also, at that level also, there is an intervention that's necessary. So
Yes.
thanks a lot, Doctor. Finally, one final question. What's your message to all these three levels and probably to media also when you say that, there is an intervention required at all levels, even at the self, even at the child level? What will be your message to each of these levels? Parents, children, media, where we come in, and also to
We all need to be responsible and accountable. For children, I would say that whenever you go through anything which disturbs you, which does not allow you to be your normal self, can't concentrate, feel very painful, talk to somebody. Talk to the helpline, talk to the doctors. Doctors are there to help you. Go to the, if the parents are not, and sometimes parents don't understand that there is out there in denial to accept it. My child can't be so weak, they think like that. So talk to somebody, talk to your counselor. Most of the schools have counselors, talk to them. Be very clear about it and ask for your right. Getting treated is your right. Your basic health, mental health is your right. If you feel distressed, talk about it. Ask for it. Ask for a mental health break. Ask that I'm not fine. I need help. I need a break. I need somebody, something. So be very vocal about it. Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate of being blamed for. And for parents, I would say be observant. Be observant about your children and whatever red flags they or indicators they give, acknowledge that and listen to them, talk to them, spend time with them with whatever issues you may have around. All of us have some of the other issue. Post-COVID lives have become tough, but then not sometimes we need to prioritize. We need to prioritize our health and our safety and our existence. And to the public system, I think we need to talk a little more about mental health and then integrate the programs. And many people do not know about the mental health programs which is there in the government, and talk more about it so that people access the services.
all right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Safia, for spending your time with us. This is very useful. I hope it reaches all the right people who should be watching this. Thanks a lot for spending your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more interesting updates.